Despite Ukraine's outward show of strength and resilience, frontline troops suffer not only physical wounds, but also psychological ones. DW's Nick Spicer visited a treatment center in the countryside outside the capital, Kyiv, that helps soldiers recover from both kinds of war injuries.
Rifleman Alexei Shevchenko worked in construction before the Russian invasion. Within weeks, he was on the front lines in the east, under constant, massive artillery fire. He says he would fall to the ground for cover, take out his phone, and amid the deafening blasts, swipe to a photo of Danya, his 7-year-old boy, back in the capital.
I looked at my son before going to bed and understood that if the Russian soldiers were not stopped where I was, they could reach Kyiv again. I thought of my boy and asked myself, will someone else raise my son?
Alexei didn't want to go into details, but will say he suffered a concussion and had a nervous breakdown. He is one of 150 patients at the rehabilitation center, whose location we were asked to keep secret so it wouldn't be targeted. Some suffer from post-traumatic stress, a psychological problem, and others from traumatic brain injuries, damage which can be caused by the blast waves of explosions. Symptoms for both include suicidal thoughts, depression, insomnia, and anger. A door slam or firecracker can trigger the terrifying feeling you are under fire again. Alexei is here for 3 weeks of psychotherapy, group discussions, walks, and massages. He says he'll abide by the doctor's decision about whether he should return to battle. Over history, soldiers returning from war have described often feeling a sense of stigma from society, an inability to understand what they're going through, and a rejection of what they're feeling. But that's not all the case here in Ukraine, according to the director of this institute.
We believe in victory, in the power, strength, and experience of our soldiers. Every loss will be in the heart of every Ukrainian. I think that helps them. The belief that we are here, standing behind them. There are people who respect them immensely and are proud of them. It is very important for them to know about this, and we constantly tell them.
Maxim is an explosives expert and has been fighting since 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea and parts of the east. He likes looking at the murals at the center to lift his morale. He suffers from combat-related stress.
Here, working with psychologists helps a lot. If a person is whole, has arms and legs, it does not mean that everything is normal with the person. His psyche is disturbed.
Maxim says he is burdened by many memories, like when his men moved into a town just occupied by the Russians, who had shot people, attached explosives to their bodies, and buried them.
Local people wanted us to work faster. They kept asking us to go from one yard to another. It took us 3 days to clean all the yards and gardens in this village. We found a total of 5 buried bodies that were booby-trapped.
Maxim says his men call him every day. They want him to come back. He says he knows it will be hard to return, but that he must.
For more, let's bring in Iryna Frankova here. She's the head of the Traumatic Stress Network at the European College of Neuro-psycho-pharmacology. She's from Kyiv, but due to the war, she joins us from the Netherlands. Thanks for being with us. Professor Frankova, can you give us a sense of how many people, soldiers and civilians, are believed to have suffered serious trauma in Ukraine as a result of this war?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me today. So basically, on one hand, exposure to traumatic experience is a part of our daily routine. So each second person faces threatening events during their life. But on the other hand, we know that secondary trauma through social media is a well-known phenomenon. So it's important to talk not about the number of exposed to traumatic event, but those who will stay resilient And I would say that, of course, it depends on the population. Civil population are less vulnerable, and soldiers, so first responders, medical doctors, more vulnerable. And we are talking about 10 to 20%.
So this is a huge problem. When it comes to helping Ukraine, we often talk about military aid, weapons and whatnot. But what about medical support, mental health services? Should Ukraine's partners be doing more, do you think, to help in that regard?
I think Ukraine partners should do their work, and we, mental health professionals, will do our work. And since Olena Zelenska, First Lady of Ukraine, is leading now a program of mental health support, I believe that stigma will decrease and the number of professionals will increase within Ukraine.
What are the most common psychological problems that trauma victims in Ukraine are dealing with?
I would say it's sleep problems, nightmares, and memories of traumatic events, but as well a level of anxiety and separation problem, as well as loss are common. And some neurotic symptoms like obsessions and compulsion, especially in children, we see it on a daily basis.
Now, working through trauma takes time, and it requires a secure environment. How difficult is it to provide that environment with the war still going on?
I would say that priority during ongoing traumatic experience is to optimize survival, actually. It means that we should help people to adjust to the current reality in the best possible way, both for civilians and soldiers. And then we might think about trauma treatment, but not right after the trauma. Please mind that we have to wait, because during first 3 months, those symptoms of traumatic stress might just disappear because of natural phenomena of recovery.
Now, many Ukrainian families have been torn apart by this war. Women and children leaving when husbands have to say goodbye, had to stay behind. How does that affect the psyche of the soldiers fighting in this war, that separation?
What I have heard from a personal communication with soldiers, knowing that family are in safety, works even better for them to protect country, knowing that children and wife and parents would not be affected by this war, helps them actually to fight.
Thank you so much for that. That was Professor Iryna Frankova, traumatic stress expert, joining us there from the Netherlands.